So, what do things like climate change, global finance, and your dinner all have in common? Well, it turns out they're all tangled up in one of the most critical challenges of our time. In this explainer, we're going to see how a revolution in what's called green banking might just be the key to securing our global food system. And it all starts with the very people who grow our food.
80%. That is a huge number, and it represents the smallholder farmers who make up the vast majority of the agricultural workforce in the developing world. Now, we're not talking about huge corporations here. We're talking about families, often farming on just a few acres of land.
And even so, these are the people who form the very foundation of our entire food system, feeding hundreds of millions of us. But here's the problem. Despite how crucial they are, that foundation is starting to crack. They are facing a crisis on so many fronts. Which, it just begs the question, right? If they're so important, why are they being systematically left behind by the very financial systems that are supposed to help them survive and even thrive? Let's unpack that. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with what we're calling the farmer's dilemma. Then we'll look at why the financial system is basically broken for them. After that, we'll get into the exciting stuff, how banking is going green, check out some real success stories, and finally, map out the path to sustainability. Okay, first up, the farmer's dilemma. Let's dive right into this high-stakes paradox facing the very people who feed the world. And just so we're all on the same page, these are the people we're focusing on, not massive agribusinesses, but the real backbone of food security across much of the globe, operating at a scale that honestly is often totally invisible to big finance. And these farmers are on the absolute front lines. I mean, they're battling the direct effects of climate change, like wild, unpredictable weather, and soil that's just getting worse, while at the same time, they're locked out of the financial tools that could actually help them adapt. It's a brutal double whammy of environmental and economic instability. So what happens when these farmers need a loan? Something simple to buy drought-resistant seeds or a small irrigation system. They turn to the financial system, but more often than not, they find the door is just locked shut. And this right here, this slide, perfectly illustrates the trap they're in. On one side, you've got the traditional banks. They demand collateral, like land titles, that most of these farmers just don't have. Then on the other side, you've got informal lenders. Sure, they're accessible, but they often hit farmers with predatory interest rates that trap them in this endless cycle of debt. It's a complete no-win situation. And this isn't just a small issue, it's systemic. Get this, in 2019, the entire continent of Africa, a place that's on the front lines of climate change and depends so heavily on these small farms, received only 3% of all global green finance. Just 3%. Let that sink in for a second. I mean, just look at the sheer scale of this disconnect. You have over $630 billion floating around in global green finance, but a tiny fraction of that, just $19 billion, made its way to Africa. There is this massive structural gap between where the money is and where it is so desperately needed. But it's not all bad news. Amid all these challenges, a really powerful solution is starting to emerge. Financial innovation is essentially creating a digital key to unlock all of this potential. So what even is green finance? Well, the crucial point here is that this isn't about charity or handouts. Green finance is all about creating real, viable financial products that support projects that are good for the planet. It's about making investment and sustainability go hand in hand. For a farmer on the ground, this looks like a complete toolkit for resilience. It means you can get a loan that's specifically designed for climate-smart tech, like solar-powered irrigation. It means you can use your own mobile phone data to build a credit score. And it means you get training and support packed right in with your financial products. It's the whole package. Now, all of this sounds great in theory, but the real test, of course, is whether it actually works in the real world. So let's look at some examples where these green shoots of success are already starting to pop up. Let's put a human face on this. This is Aisha, a maize farmer in Kenya. For her, green finance wasn't some abstract idea. It was the key that finally let her get her first formal loan to install drip irrigation. That made her farm way more resilient and productive, something that was totally impossible for her before. So how is that possible? Through brilliant innovations like Kenya's Farm Drive. What it does is it analyzes data that farmers are already creating on their cell phones, things like call history and mobile money use, and it uses that to create a reliable credit score. This completely bypasses the old school need for collateral like a land title, and that just throws the door wide open for millions.
And it's not just mobile phones either. In Nigeria, they're using satellite imagery and AI to evaluate what's happening on a farm. This allows lenders to offer farmers, like Chike, better loan terms if they can prove they're using sustainable, climate-smart practices. So technology is directly linking good environmental work with good financial incentives. It's a win-win.
And these examples, they highlight a really key trend. It's often the smaller, more agile groups, the microfinance institutions, or MFIs, that are really leading the charge here. They're just better set up to offer the smaller, more flexible loans and the bundled training that farmers actually need, especially when you compare them to the big traditional banks that are just much slower to adapt. Okay, so we have a problem and we have a solution that we know can work. So the million-dollar question is, what's stopping this from scaling up? Why isn't this just the new normal everywhere? Well, it's because finance is just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. For these brilliant innovations to truly take off, they have to navigate a whole minefield of systemic hurdles. We're talking about everything from low productivity and deep-seated gender inequality to a lack of financial literacy and the need for governments to create supportive policies. But the good news is the path forward is actually quite clear. It really boils down to a 6-point plan. Keep innovating financial products for farmers. Invest in digital infrastructure for rural areas. Bring the public and private sectors together. Create smart government policies. Close knowledge gaps with education. And finally, build sustainability right into the heart of credit decisions. That is the blueprint for real systemic change. Which leaves us with this final question. The tools are there. The models have been proven to work. The challenge really is no longer about invention. It's about implementation. It's about will. Redesigning finance isn't just some technical, boring challenge. It's a fundamental choice about the kind of food system and really the kind of future that we all want to build.